Oh my god,
Weird name.
No, I stopped
Yes,
recording again. Okay.
yes, hello, my name is Fuck.
Let's start from the beginning, because we still have 0 viewers. Hello everyone, this is the PRCast for Civilization Battle Royale X Season 2. We are your Power Rankers team, here to talk about a 10-year-old video game with board game-like aspects that nobody's playing, just AI. This is your host and technically head power ranker, JMAngelo67, also known as TickieJames on Twitch and VideoJames on YouTube. So when you guys get the chance, please subscribe, follow me on Twitch, give me some Reddit karma. That would be great. I am joined here today by Admiral Cloudberg.
Hi, that's me.
I am also joined by Lacsirax Ariscal. Really? Is that how you're going to introduce yourself? With the quiet, hi, that's me. Come on.
Well,
Oh no, it's me.
All right, there we go.
It's
That's
me,
some
the
energy. It's energy from Lax. That's what I need. I'm also joined by power ranker LonelyRollingStar, also known as LRS.
If you know me, it's by a different name, and you don't know me. Nobody knows me. I'm invisible. You can't see me. I'm not here.
See, he had a plan. Anywho, of course, we aren't the only power rankers on the Civilization Battle Royale X power ranking team. However,
Yes.
other power rankers may or may not be joining us as the stream goes on. They have every right to just hop in whenever they want. But we always start at 7 on the Wednesday, the week after the Civilization Battle Royale X episode has been released.
Seven is a nefarious number. What does that mean? 7 whose time?
Oh, 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, does anybody want to do Greenwich time for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's midnight. It's sweet midnight here, my love.
Okay, well,
That's easy to remember. Just sign on when the sun disappears.
yeah. So at sweet midnight for anyone living a hop across the Eastern Pond or the Central Pond, however you want to define it. Yeah,
The Atlantic Ocean.
the Atlantic, that pond. Yeah, it's midnight for you guys. But hey, you guys don't have an excuse. Senshi hops on here all the time, in the middle of the night. But anywho,
well,
I think
no,
it's
because
it's morning
it's
by then.
middle of the day for him because so he's so far ahead. Australia is so far ahead that it's much easier to say that they're like 7 hours behind. The East Coast is just the following day.
I gotcha. Well, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to Civilization Battle Royale X Season 2, Episode 2. Blim 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 runs said 10 a.m. in Senshi's time zone. So
Shoot, I
what
forget
we've
who
got to
that
talk
is.
about is that a lot of wars were started, a lot of cities were taken. The first city captures occurred during this episode. Thank you, Jablonski, for the follow. I can't wait to see your next map if you're going to continue making maps, because those are awesome. Anywho, lots of stuff happened. Lots of rank drops, some huge rank rises for some. And, a couple of bumblings about here and there. So let's start talking about it. First, it's important to always talk about the big movers because that really just gets us in the vibe to talk about the events. So let's talk about the biggest loser after this part's episode, shall we? Burkina Faso. After episode 1, we ranked them in first, and now after a very unsuccessful war with Nigeria, they dropped 43 ranks all the way down to rank 44.
I don't think we have to talk about this. Just move on. Shall we?
No,
Next.
we're talking about it.
I don't really know what there is to say. It was like it's like it doesn't say, it definitely doesn't reflect badly on us. That's for sure. Not in
It
any
doesn't?
way. No.
I suppose here, the lesson to be taken away from this is that sometimes military is the most important stat of all, even more important than production or science. And those times are generally when you end up with a neighbor below you who can and will snuff out your life in half a second, no matter how well your start's been going.
Yeah, that was the issue. I mean, getting 5 cities out in the first episode is impressive. It also means you've probably been using the vast majority of early production for settlers,
Yeah, and then Aaron's
and
always
not for.
military doesn't matter, and it's like, actually sometimes it does. If you have none, that does matter.
it matters more in the early game, because in the early game the production just isn't as high, so you can't materialize an army out of nowhere
I mean,
like you can in the later game.
more critically, every civ has basically the same amount of production
Yeah, true.
at an early stage. It's starting to differentiate now, but after part 1, it certainly was basically the same.
Yeah, so that's about all there is to it, really. I mean, I would say Nigeria declared war at the perfect time. I think if they had left Burkina Faso a bit longer, Burkina probably would have, started building more soldiers, gotten a bit tougher, used that 5 city advantage to their advantage, while Nigeria still only had 2, remember?
Of course, it's hard to.
They just declared war at the perfect moment and got 2 cities for the pleasure. Although they should have only got 1. They got 1 in the peace treaty, of course. Which isn't a great sign for Burkina Faso. I don't know if there's. We've never found a stat in the AI which says more likely to give away cities, but something must control it, because some civs do it like crazy, and some civs don't seem to do it ever. So if it's not a good sign for Burkina Faso that they were giving away a city this early on in the game under very little threat, because to be honest, that Nigeria's army had been mostly expended by that point.
Civs basically give away cities. It has nothing to do with the AI. It has to do with the differential in army size and in damage that was inflicted during the war. So
yeah, I suppose, yeah. Although you say that, but I raise you Mark II Portugal.
Well, everybody remembers when the Congo gave away Braga in the middle of a.
Portugal gave away.
No,
Braga.
Portugal gave away Braga.
Yeah, well, I mean, Congo gave away Braga when Morocco took it, like the badasses they
it's
were.
Hard. But... It's harder to control having other people take your city than just giving your city away.
Timar Tabor has shared a helpful link called "How Does the AI Calculate a Peace Treaty?" posted on reddit.com/r/civ. Let's observe, shall we?
We don't associate with this r/civ, guys.
Yeah,
there's an r/civ.
It was posted 5 years ago, so it was back before they sucked.
Not unless it has good info. All right.
So, from the DLL, the AI checks the following: each side's military strength, each side's economic strength, war damage it has taken twice, 2 times, war damage it has inflicted twice, each side's total score, and the length of the war. Using those, it calculates a value that it checks against a set of global thresholds, configurable via mod, by the way, that determines what kind of peace treaty it would be willing to either offer or accept. Each peace treaty type has a set of items and values it will be willing to offer and accept, including what percentage of gold per turn, cities it owns, strategic resources, etc. The worse it thinks it's doing in the war, the more it's willing to give up.
This does make sense for the Burkina Faso situation, because their military was very low, and they've definitely taken a lot of damage in the war already.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's definitely why it happened. So I mean, I see Aaron was in the chat, and he was like, it was like the main issue is giving away a good city, not the losing of a recent settle. But I mean, losing the settle, no, it was definitely, that was important too. I mean,
I might be wrong. I believe the city that was conquered, Bamfara, was actually founded before the one they gave away. The one they gave away was that they only founded about turn 29, so around the end of episode 1.
That city
it was a very new city, that one.
Though I'd say that city was much more important than Bamfara, only because it was a vital port at the bottom of a...
Yeah, and also it was bigger because it hadn't been damaged in the war, so it grew quite large, and because it was coastal.
I feel like giving away that city may have just ceded control of that entire naval area to Nigeria for a good amount of time.
Yeah, certainly. There's no Congolese ports yet either, so... But also, if you own all the cities on a coastline, then your ships are kind of useless. There's not a lot they can do other than just sit there.
I mean, there's Lesotho, there's Namibia. There's a lot of people who could potentially get coastlines eventually.
You could invade South America.
It also invades South America. It's hardly
honestly,
it's hardly like anybody there's taking the continent for themselves.
they can't be worse than the Jawara, who are just over the pond. So
I mean, I
that's
wouldn't
gonna be the
argue the
Jawara's only
Marjawaras are
mention.
bad yet, but
I'd go that far.
So before
anyway.
we go into the rest that we have down on the list, we talked about our biggest loser, which was Burkina Faso. Let's talk about our biggest winner, just because they're right around the same area, the Vandals.
I did not think they would be good. I
didn't think they'd be good either. I mean, they so in so many different AI games, they just like build they build 5 cities and then lose them all immediately and then die. And it's like, but this time they actually,
they built.
There's certainly some risk that they'd pull a Burkina Faso where they've just settled a bunch of cities, maybe rank them high, and then they lose them. But at the same time, they actually have a pretty good army and a lot of production. So I think the chances of that happening to them are lower.
Yeah, just for reference, by the way, the Vandals during this episode rose from rank 53, which was in the bottom 10, all the way up to rank 6.
Which is pretty good, as it turns out.
Somebody asked if that was our biggest ever rise in I think it was Autistic Not Weird asked if it was our biggest ever rise in rankings across power ranking history throughout every mark.
It might have been a 47 slot rank.
I have no idea.
3/4 of the field.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with a lot of the ranks in Mark II because I only joined as a power ranker for Mark 2.1, so I really don't know. There could have been something that was more. But at the same time,
you
I
joined
kind
as
of
a
doubted
power
it.
ranker for Mark III and became a real power ranker in Mark 2.1.
The most serious rating changes in Mark II, if I recall correctly, that early on were the drops, like you'd see with China.
Yeah,
I never recalled back in Mark II any major rises in the power rankings, and by the time we, as a more liberally, in terms of doling out ranks, team, arrived, there were only 16, 18 civs, or 20 civs left. Yeah.
I mean,
Finland and Sweden had quite a quick rise, but I don't remember. That was probably over a few episodes rather than in one episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when Morocco was doing particularly well, it took the rankers quite a while to get them out of the bottom 10, for example.
You could say we're more liberally inclined to deal ranks, but what is
Sorry, I'm trying to remember that time that Morocco did well. It's really not coming to me.
What is a Mark II China?
They won multiple wars against Carthage, against Congo, against Portugal.
All right.
And had about 5
This is a CBRX podcast.
I hate to continue talking about CBR2, but what is China from there? But this marks Burkina Faso. Started off strong, had 5 cities. Everybody thought they'd grow well and expand, and then somebody hit their weak point at the right time, and they collapsed inwards upon themselves.
Well, I'm not willing to count Burkina Faso out yet. Just because...
Yeah, still too early to call.
Yeah, it's still too early to call. It's just a huge cripple right at the beginning, but it's not like it was a cripple that was totally unexpected. I mean they still have the majority of their Voronoi diagram to them if they just start settling west a bit more.
Tuareg also only have 3 cities, and Nigeria are only going to found their 3rd city on the first turn of next episode. So, they're actually still the same size as everybody else.
Yeah.
In the vicinity. Anyway, let's go back to Vandals. Yep. I do have a worry that Vandals may be a bit of a peak for Vandals, at least for the time being. It was an impressive episode, but much like with Burkina, while their stats are very strong, I do think they're still susceptible to quite a little damage from some of the little armies and navies waiting to pop up.
Yeah, I am 100% of the mind that random strategy shares that Burkina Faso still has more production than Nigeria despite losing 2 cities.
I can believe it.
But I do want to share that I think that the Vandals, despite having 6 cities now, 2 of their cities are on Iberia, and when I say that they're small cities when I talk about them, I mean that they are absolutely surrounded by a much bigger Spanish base. I do know that Spain is currently in a war with Wales. There is a distinct possibility that they will lose a city to Wales, but until that happens, Spain does have their core where the Vandals decide to settle, and the Vandals only have like some rinky-dink coast cities. They don't really have a back door, if you will. The back door is being covered up by the Tuareg and by the Ptolemies. And for all we know, for all anybody who cheers on Two Sicilies knows, Two Sicilies could start swooping in at any time and just start sniping cities along the coast.
Yeah, the Vandals have a strong navy, though, is the one thing that I would dissuade against that possibility.
I feel like in time we're going to remember the Vandals more for the powers whose game's plans they threw wrenches into than their own merits.
Maybe.
It's entirely possible, we could be completely wrong about the Vandals, and they end up being most remembered for getting Emu Spy on the Discord over $5 million from one stock.
Like, Spain, of course, has an easy way to conquer those two Vandal cities. But on the other hand, should they allow the Vandals to fester like a burning wound, their status as top dogs over there is easily challenged.
I would argue that the Vandals are a lot better than what we give them credit for, hence why I didn't rank them 59th. Or did I rank them 59th? I maybe did one day, but I would argue that the Vandals have done well before, just maybe not in some of our AI games.
It was so actually, fun fact is that in episode 0, before it all began, there was one ranker who is not currently on this on the podcast, but who ranked the Vandals 6th, and everyone made fun of them until they changed it. I was like, actually, that aged really well.
Yeah, that aged poorly.
I ranked the Vandals 61st coming into part 0. Every day I marinate in my own shame.
I mean, hey, we a lot of us ranked Jamaica 61st, and look at them now. They have 4 cities. That's 4 times the cities they had in one of their most popular AI games.
Yes, it is.
They have more cities than 3 of their immediate neighbors. That's insane.
Jamaica beat though.
So, Vandals' verdict, I still don't believe in them, but they have reason for optimism, and now I have actual reason to believe I might be wrong. So, by that metric, the Vandals are already better off than at least half the civilizations here.
Oh yeah, as soon as we get optimistic about a civ, that means they're fucked.
Why do you think
the PR
I...
curse?
I that's why I'm just like, god damn it, I do not like the fact that I'm putting Vandals in 14th, even though I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that they're gonna get fucking kicked really hard in a few episodes. Except for Tahiti. I know Tahiti's gonna do just fine, and I'm gonna make $10. So
there's something about their linear shape, the way that they just hug the coastline of the Med at the moment, which makes me think that they're really vulnerable because, like, it's much easier to enforce a core of like a capital with like 4 cities around it. Someone's going to attack you from one direction, you can defend it. You've got your army all in one place. When you've got that line format of cities, I just see them getting sort of quietly nibbled on until they're completely irrelevant by Spain, by maybe even the Tuareg, definitely by
On the other hand,
potentially in the future by Nigeria or Burkina Faso.
On the other hand, of all civs in the region, they're the best to recreate the borders of the various Mediterranean empires throughout history.
They're doing well at Carthage.
Yeah,
at the moment, southern Spain.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like
Namibia.
they're trying to recreate the historical borders of Carthage.
They just need to conquer Lebanon.
If that's prophetic. It means they're going to get killed by the Two Sicilies.
Why do you think they're moving? Why do you think they're moving half their armed forces to Jerusalem?
Well, they're going to
Deus fault.
Yeah, they're going to attack Jerusalem. They're going to do a crusade for the Holy Land.
I distinctly
Against
remember
the Crusaders.
I distinctly remember them embarking like half their massive, terrifying army and sending them over there for God knows what reason. They might have brought.
It's to reconquer the homeland.
Arrived, so we don't know what they're going to do with that.
It could go for the Ptolemies. I wouldn't be shocked by Vandals Ptolemies war soon, although I don't know that it would come to much right now.
The Vandals, I think, are the Ptolemies. I think are the neighbor most interestingly impacted by the Vandals because the Ptolemies, they're doing very well. everyone around them has proven themselves to either be a pushover or is about to be a pushover. And if you look at this part out of context for them, you could easily look at them and say, well, they're going to be the linchpin power in North Africa now. But nope, the Vandals are right there, and if the Vandals decide they want to live up to the potential we've given them, that path becomes much harder.
So
Okay.
let's officially say we're talking about the Ptolemies now, because I'm pretty sure they're also on our list, yeah?
They're
No,
not on our
no.
list, but
They're
they
not.
are important to talk about
Well-
alongside the Tuareg
Well, yeah,
because
let's
they're at
talk
war
about it.
with someone. So
Yeah, the Tuareg and Ptolemies are at war and nothing has happened, which is kind of surprising because I would have thought that that Ptolemaic western colony would have been easy to take.
The Ptolemies' capital is a while away, but you also have to remember that the Tuareg are very terrible.
Yeah, I mean that's true. They are.
sand is
so I think-
fun.
The Ptolemies look really nice, and I love their empire. It looks great, but I also think they're probably going to go the way of like Mark II IU bids, but they were like really fun to watch, and they a lot of cities changed hands. Problem was they lost as many as they gained, and then they eventually got killed.
It might just be the location. It might just be the fact.
No, I think that location is really
I'm not disputing.
AI,
It might just be the location for me. It might just be the fact that I spent 60 parts rooting for the Civ last time, but I just keep getting Paul Myrene flashbacks and I get terrified.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was always going to be an uphill battle for the Tuareg, and that's why I'm not excited, but not going to be surprised for the part where they probably inevitably die. Because let's face it, their capital is in the smack dab in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and they have no coastal cities. And they're fighting up against a far larger civilization in terms of city count. And even though I think debatably they might be able to take a city, because I don't think the Ptolemies could, or excuse me, the Ptolemies. The Ptolemies, yeah, pure fucking Greek boy here, fucking mispronouncing Ptolemy. I don't think the Ptolemies can take a Tuareg city necessarily. I also think the Tuareg are just going to struggle. This is going to be one of our first useless wars, aside from the Kola PIRG war right now.
Also,
Say-
Jazz Jerusalem ended with nothing.
There's been loads of useless wars. Kurdistan, Jerusalem, Paraguay, anybody.
I think, if you said last part that the Tuareg's best chance of actually making themselves relevant in any way and getting any land would be attacking Burkina Faso, you'd be rightly looked at as if you were completely wrong. And if you said the same thing now, you'd also be looked at as if you were completely wrong. But after 5 minutes, the person you were talking to would go, wait, that is the case. God damn it.
I said actually after part 1 that the Tuareg should attack Burkina Faso, even when Burkina Faso is ranked
I
1.
looked at you, and
And I still think they should. Because I still think they could
I
take.
looked at you like you were crazy.
Burkina Faso
5 minutes
straight.
later, I was like, wait, god damn it.
The obvious target for the Ptolemies is Zaire, no? I mean, Zaire just put a forward settle in Sudan.
Is it over isn't it like in forest or something though? I don't know.
I mean, it shouldn't be. It's on the map. It's like around
Yeah,
El
so-
Obeid, so it's in the middle of what is open
over there,
plains.
but-
So I don't know why it would be in forest.
It's over there, but I'm not too concerned about Zaire for the moment. If only because Zaire are at war with somebody to their south, and the Ptolemies are, it's going to be an issue sooner rather than later, but it's not an issue right now. And this entire early stage of the market is going to run on things being issues right now, except there's 3 of them, and they all demand your attention at once.
Yeah, so honestly, looking at this screenshot that's on the stream right now, and I'm like, if Nigeria had decided not to make peace with Burkina Faso, they probably could have just taken Burkina Faso's capital in episode 1.
I'm not quite. Their army is horribly
No,
scattered.
look at Ouagadougou. It has 13 combat strength and is defended by 1 warrior. They could easily have taken it.
They don't have anything better than warriors, however. They have one
No,
spearman.
They have 1 spearman. They
They have
have
one spearman,
they
but
have,
it's
they have 2 chariot archers. Honestly, you could take a 13.
they have
13
one
point
spearman, but that spearman's in the case they just conquered, so I suspect
No,
that.
you don't even need a spearman. You can take a 13 combat strength city defended by 1 warrior. You only need warriors and archers to take that. They could have done it.
Except for the forests is also the issue there. There's a lot of land to get through, and their army's scattershot on that screenshot. Lord knows if they try to bum rush it. It's all
They
just
totally. I think they totally could have done it. I could have done it.
They could have, but they are not us.
No, I mean, I think I could have done it. They could have done it.
They are They are dumb, but we are dumb in an entirely different way that's slightly more conducive to taking cities.
Clouds is really coming at fucking Nigeria this end.
No, they well, I think Nigeria is overranked because okay, they had one good war, but then it's like they still are not a civ that likes to expand. They love religion, they love food, and that's basically it. I mean, I don't think we'll see Nigeria be like a world power.
They
And-
are putting a city. They're putting a city at Lake Chad next episode.
They did take the Tuareg, look at them and think, you know what would be good if we made a second Tuareg and did that. So now they have two different states to their north they can beat up on.
Blim runs comments. Nigeria
That's-
rocking that
that's
get
not that
food
talented,
from
by the
food
way.
design. But yeah, let's move on because we've talked about West Africa quite a lot. I think we should just mention that because Nigeria was able to take 2 cities off of Burkina Faso, they were a huge mover in the power rankings, jumping from 45th all the way to 19th. That was a 26 rank change. But let's talk about our new kids on the block in terms of the top 5. Let's talk about Coca-Cola under Raja Coca-Cola himself. They jumped from 22nd place all the way up to 5th, a 17 rank change.
And what did they do again? I'm sorry, it's
Settled a shit ton of cities.
They invented Coca-Cola, is what happened.
I hate to sound itself
What-
here, but they did really good settling this episode.
They do. They did. I mean, they settled just straight up the coast into Iran, and that's exactly what they needed to do to avoid becoming like Maratha or Sri Lanka before them.
which
We just got stuck in South India and weren't with 2 neighbors.
which is interesting, but my concern with that is they're doing the straight line strategy, but it's a crooked line, and now Punjab or Bhutan could just throw cities in the middle and be like, "Hello."
Well, I would argue that that would be a worse idea for Bhutan or
Yeah, no,
Punjab,
it's-
because
it
I
might-
understand your straight line idea, but unlike the Vandals, I think this is better in terms of the Indian subcontinent just because of its shape. That allows those tiles to grow together, allows it to create a core. They can settle a city in the middle if they want. It's not as bad as the Vandals, who are settling in a straight line across the coast of Africa with the Saharan desert behind them and 2 civs right behind them.
I do find it interesting, or bizarre, that the Chola so far have only founded coastal cities, and Punjab and Bhutan have not yet settled a single coastal city between them.
I mean,
Yeah.
they haven't really gotten a chance.
Chola is a really naval-focused civ. So yeah, as Top Hat just said in the chat, that they always try to be navally opportunistic, and so I wouldn't be surprised if in the future you saw Chola trying to invade Indonesia. Although if Malacca remains strong, maybe it'll be the other way around.
Yeah.
Well, Chola Malacca might be really interesting. I agree.
I feel like the natural strategy going forward for them is going to be the same as any civ that takes over the Indian subcontinent, which is conquer Arabia and deal with what happens later when you get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that amongst the 3 civs in the area, probably the one with the best uniques here is Kola, because yeah, Bhutan has the Dapon Archer, which never obsoletes, and it'll buff the range units, but that's a huge production dump for an ancient era unit, whereas where Kola shines is that they have a great admiral replacement that has combat strength. So that's just something that it's almost kind of like a snowball effect, where it's like, you know, your unique unit is useful at any era versus, say, Punjab's or Bhutan's, which will start to become less and less useful as time goes on.
Bhutan's is actually useful at any era as well.
I keep getting reminded of that time Argentina stocked, what was it, like 20 great generals in one of the CBRs? And I worry that and the same thing probably won't happen with admirals because it's hard to gain points for those, but like,
Yeah, you only get admiral points if I let you.
One thing I will say is there's about 10 ranks between Chola and Punjab at the moment, roughly. Someone will have to check the exact number, I can't remember.
it feels fair.
I'm not sure it does. Punjab, I think, is still a pretty solid force. They have a decent amount of cities themselves. They have some good stats. Good military-ish.
Punjab is probably going to be very good, but they are not.
The other thing counting in Punjab's favour as well is a very, very slow episode from Uzbekistan, who's sort of their only non-Indian major rival at the moment.
So and they have been expanding in that direction. They've been expanding in sort of the direction of Afghanistan. So I think that does suggest that Punjab already had quite a big Voronoi diagram, by far the biggest Voronoi of all the Indian civs. And I think, given their current expansion rates, I think we could see Punjab build quite a meaty core, a little removed from India, actually, a little more towards Afghanistan and Central Asia, which could make them quite a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I do think just because Punjab just has better stats in general in terms of the three Indian civs right now, that
That's
they
right.
are arguably the favorites. But since Punjab isn't in any major wars, that would imply,
Yeah, we should probably mention that I believe the Chola and Bhutan are at war currently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chola,
I don't expect anything
Kola
to
and
happen.
Bhutan are at war.
Why do you
I'm
think-
almost positive it's pronounced Kola, hence the Coca-Cola joke.
Why would it be pronounced cola?
I don't know, but that's what I was
Because-
told. You guys could look it up and prove me wrong.
I'm looking it up now.
I don't-
Actually, go ahead and keep
I don't
talking.
think it is.
All right. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
it's
speak
Kola.
Tamil,
It
Because
was
so
pronouncing ch like h is a really like Germanic thing.
Yeah, it's like a Scottish.
I don't know
thing,
why it would be.
I mean, it's also an Arabic thing. It's also an Iranian thing. It's also an Urdu thing. So,
But is it a Tamil thing?
well, I don't know. Plus, it's Indo-Aryan. Like, it comes from Indo-Aryan. Anywho,
No, it's Dravidian.
Dravidian. Okay.
Tamil's Dravidian.
Which is completely
unrelated.
unrelated to Indo-European.
Okay, that's fair enough. But my point being about that whole situation is that I can reasonably see Kola taking a city off of Bhutan. I don't think it's going to happen because Bhutan does have a carpet.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to happen.
But I don't see Punjab involved in any major wars at the moment. If they become involved in a war with Kola, then maybe, Kola and Punjab swap on my ranking sheet. But until then, I just see that the Kola has pushed out of South India and are starting to progress both west and east. So that's a big boost for me.
I put Punjab above Kola. If only. I feel like it would be much easier for the Punjab to go over and, I don't know, mercilessly beat up Uzbekistan or Bhutan or whoever else early on, rather than the Kola, who have to wait some amount of time to actually get a navy, actually research the right text for that.
Mm-hmm.
Punjab have a chance of just being able to rocket themselves ahead early on in the game, whereas Chola, Kola, whatever, being a naval civ, do not.
I can hear Cloudberg typing on his keyboard, trying to figure out how it's pronounced.
I'm not actually typing. I'm just looking around, but I can't find an actual pronunciation anywhere.
We'll just refer to them as the C civ that shall not be named, because Lord knows they are not the only civ I'm going to have trouble pronouncing.
Yeah, it's Chola.
Where'd you find that?
I just googled Chola pronunciation.
Oh, okay. I
Literally,
was trying to
Google
look on
told me.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, but is it like Chola, like a different language, or is it Chola the Tamil kingdom?
No, it's the South Indian dynasty. In fact, in Tamil, apparently it's pronounced closer to like Choja.
Okay. Well,
it's
I got
definitely a
pie on
Ch
my
sound.
face. I'm still gonna make Coca-Cola jokes, but
Well,
they're Chola.
I said Coca-Cola, so
Yeah.
you can get away with it.
Yeah.
I think Coca-Cola's fine.
Coca-Cola. Coachella. Coachella. Anywho. Yeah, since we're talking about Uzbekistan, they're also a big loser in this week's power rankings. They dropped from 6th place all the way to the 23rd. I think it's fairly obvious why we put them that far down. They're not expanding as quickly as we want them to. They don't have, the great library like PARG does. Their neighbors are just growing bigger and bigger with time. They really
The science is good though. The
they're-
science is good.
Their science is good, but at the same time, it seems like they really haven't taken advantage of their area, as it were.
Central Asia is also if they're going to be a science turtle, Central Asia is a terrible place to do it.
Right.
Because there's so much land, you could be so much better off by just expanding. So I hope they expand in the future. Right now, we dropped them because they didn't expand. But
I'll say this: I did actually raise Uzbekistan this part, in part because of the science, and also in part because Kurdistan is sort of just embarrassing themselves a little ways away, and Punjab are threats. Punjab are something that could easily take over that part of Uzbekistan. But at the same time, they're definitely not the smallest fish in their neighborhood, and they could very easily put themselves back on top with a good spree of settling in, I don't know, a single part.
It's true that Kurdistan just settled a really questionable city over on their side of the Caspian. I'm pretty sure. I mean, or like on the
Yeah.
last turn of the part.
Kurdistan settled two pretty forward settles last episode. There was the one on the other side of the Caspian, which is encroaching into Uzbekistan land, and then there's a fantastic one, in my opinion, which you haven't seen yet, but some things cartographers just know, you know. They found one. They're going to find one right at the start of next episode, right in the middle of Mesopotamia, which is going to really, really stifle any Jerusalem expansion from then on. Which,
I mean, stifling Jerusalem why can't I speak?
An exponential.
Stifling Jerusalem expansion isn't exactly something that's hard to do. A teddy bear could probably do it strategically.
arguably the thing stifling Jerusalem's expansion most is Jerusalem.
Well, yeah. But
Like we have a screen of it. Look at it. Like, how do you get a settler out of that? There's rivers, there's a lake, there's a canal, there's ocean, there's forests, there's hills. Getting a settler from the capital to anywhere you want to put the settler takes like 5 turns just to get them outside of city limits.
Land of milk and honey, baby.
Once you check in, you can never check out.
Oh yeah, a Hotel California joke on top of an actual Bible joke. Love it.
Yes.
Anywho,
The thing is, I don't actually read or have any knowledge.
so
just in general.
just in general. We let LRS onto the team as a practical joke, and now he won't leave.
It's very easy to get rid of me. You have your own gang. You could just shoot me.
All right. We've talked about the cola, and we ended up in Jerusalem, but let's talk about one of my favorite civs right now, Chuck E. Cheese.
The Chuck E. Cheese, yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
But, I agree, actually. Do you know, there's two that are right next to each other in our list who have gone way higher in the rankings for basically the same reason, which is the Chukchi and their Arctic brethren, Iceland, who both had a great part of just going, you know what, we're going to just try and settle a bit of everywhere. Chukchi were like, we'll get one in Russia, we'll get one in Sakhalin, we'll get a couple more in Hokkaido. Why not? We'll settle right up near the Bering Strait as well.
Honshu.
And Honshu, sorry. And Iceland were like, yeah, we'll settle Scotland, Greenland. They've got a settler on the way towards Newfoundland. AK Vinland. So yeah, both of them, and we've seen that strategy pan out in the past. Obviously, most obviously for Mark II Iceland. But that kind of taking advantage of open areas where there's quite weak civs that haven't settled very well, like the neutral nation and Japan. We've seen that pan out a lot in the past, and it'll be interesting to see if either of those two civs sort of use this as a jumping off board.
So the question now is: were we too pessimistic with them before, or are we too optimistic with them now?
How about neither? How about we're just really good at ranking?
Imagine being good at ranking. Jesus.
Yeah. I am personally not thinking that we are overranking them at the moment because I'm still very, very much so focused on Chukchi's unique ability, which is Anapir, I do not know Siberian languages, Anapir Turkin, which...
Let me see if I can pronounce it.
Yeah, Mr. Russia over here.
Well, I don't know the Chukchi pronunciation rules, but either. But I just always try to be good at pronouncing things. Oh yeah.
I mean,
yeah, so something like that.
Anywho, just for reference, the unique ability reads: units provide culture and damage adjacent enemies upon earning a promotion, and may force units to retreat when starting within your territory. If destroyed adjacent to your borders, enemy units claim their occupied tile for your empire. So what was important was that city in northern Japan that wasn't on Hokkaido is settled right on the border of Japan, and their third city. So at any point, Chukchi units could just die on those borders and then just claim those borders for the Chukchi.
Or Japanese units would have to die on those tiles. And the problem is that Chukchi doesn't have any units. So honestly, I kind of don't see a whole lot of
And in order to make any use from that unique, they'd have to be the ones rushing in and attacking. They would have to not only be on the offensive, but be able to push the front pretty far back to start messing around with whatever Japan has going on there.
Sure, but I am still under the impression that even wars where especially early on, where the two powers don't really have a lot of units on their hands, that the defensive power is going to get a few kills in. And that could be from city bombardments, that could be from anything. And with that in mind, I think that once Japanese cities start losing tiles very, very rapidly, that ends up crippling the Japanese most assuredly. And
Okay,
unless
but
they're
without-
able to
without
get
bringing
that
in a
city,
large-
unless
you
they
can't. They're not going to take any tiles from Japan without a large counteroffensive. Because if they're just doing stuff with the city bombard, they're only going to get tiles in the second ring, which they were going to get anyway.
Yeah, I understand that, but I think what my major point is that with that in mind, that those Japanese cities are going to get crippled, and
Well, I was saying they're not going to get crippled.
right.
The question here is, does the unique effect activate when a Chukchi unit dies or when a Japanese unit dies?
When a Japanese unit dies.
If it activates when a Japanese unit dies, then the Chukchi are not going to get any mileage out of that because A, they don't have any cities right there at the moment, and B, even if they do get them there, they're not going to be getting anything better than maybe the second frame, and they'd have to settle a city of their own that's already crippled just by where it is before war even starts to make use of that.
I think you're misunderstanding because there is a city right there.
Yeah, they settled on Honshu. That's the lack of cities near Japanese cities is not the reason why I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't think they're going to kill any Japanese units beyond the second ring.
Yeah. If they were able to get it when their own units died, they'd be in a very good position to make actual use of it. But since they can't, bombardments and actually pushing the front forward on their own are going to be their main tools for locking down the city.
Right.
A city like that is going to be locked down past the first frame.
Yeah, I think that city in Honshu is its defense strength is so low, and there are so few Chukchi units anywhere near it. I think Japan could take it with like 5 units easily.
The best thing I think that does for the Chukchi is it means that they can easily, over a period of multiple wars, weaken a city in one war, take it in the next, weaken the city after that in that war. Then after another piece, they can take the next war, so on and so forth, conquering their way one city per war at a time. That's kind of hard to do in this. That's kind of a hard path to take to world domination here.
But again, if it does end up happening, even though, Cloud, you think it's unlikely, if it does end up happening, it weakens Japan. It makes the Chukchi stronger.
If it does end up happening, I just sold my Chukchi and bought Japan because I don't think it's going to happen.
There's a way to use it. There's ways to use it effectively, and there's countless ways that we aren't thinking of to use it effectively.
And of course, there's that small island off of Kamchatka, which does have a tile seized by Japan that can get taken. You know, some sea tiles can get taken. Anything can happen here.
Say they put an expeditionary force down to actual mainland Asia. If they send enough units there, just that invasion force alone could completely cripple any Japanese attempts to expand there for the foreseeable future because the detritus of dead units polluting all those tiles. If they can easily lock down any new Japanese cells that haven't fully established themselves yet just by killing the Japanese army there, because what's Japan going to be able to do to take those tiles back?
I haven't been paying attention.
You okay, Lax? Sleepy?
I haven't been paying attention. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the Chukchi fighting Japan.
Okay, probably not going to happen. Should we do Iceland?
Probably not going to happen. They're literally at war.
Yeah, but in the same way that the UK and Iceland went to war.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can talk about Iceland. I think Iceland is on track. Iceland is doing, so far, everything they need to repeat Mark II Iceland's performance.
Right.
Too early to say, but they're settling a lot, and that's good.
Mark II Iceland never actually settled Britain until after they conquered the whole of the British Isles.
Yeah, so they're already doing better than Mark II Iceland.
I don't know why we haven't put them first.
I think I think of all the civs in this mark, Iceland are the biggest winner with the way this mark is laid out. Just the map.
Yeah, because Wales is so far south in the British Isles. There's nobody else there. Iceland could just grab Scotland.
There's no civs around them. There's much less slow on their lands now than there would be in previous marks. There's easy ways to get to both North America and the UK, only a few tiles journey.
Greenland is smaller, but it's also kind of better. The terrain there looks like it's been a bit more buffed from recent recent eps.
Cutting down Greenland's size is actually buff to civs who live there because they aren't settling 5 cities up in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I think Iceland, they're almost certainly going to settle Vinland next episode. There's a settler just parked at L'Ensemble ready to settle there. Where do Iceland go? So they've got, let's say they put two cities down in Northern America. Settle maybe another one in Greenland, and then by that point the rest of the map is kind of filling up as well. Who's the ideal first target for Iceland?
I would say Wales.
Yeah, I see. I don't think the neutral
as soon as Gallius is hit, they should go for Wales.
Yeah, I think the neutral nation is too inland. Yeah, Iceland needs to navally focus.
I think it depends on how much they focus on how well established the cities in North America are. If they get 3 good North American cities down, their North American presence might be better than the neutral nation presence, depending on whether they've woken up by that point.
Yeah, neutral nation or inland is the problem, though. Actually,
does anybody want my wild card?
If the new hear me out. If the New Netherlands don't build a big navy, Iceland could build a big navy. By like the Renaissance era, they could just conquer all the way down the Atlantic seaboard.
Yeah, that was fully my wild card. I mean, I will say,
I guess that
the city they founded in northern Florida is 1 tile away from being coastal. It's around like South Georgia. It's not actually coastal.
I guess the question is, do they go after the UK and go for smaller medieval era gains with more likelihood of actually reaching them, or do they settle deeper into North America and go for potentially greater Renaissance era gains?
They should just go. They should just set a line of cities straight to the fucking Pacific. Manifest destiny to shit up.
Because as filled with options as their situation is, they probably can't do both. If they go down to the UK first, the neutral nations will probably at least put two cities down North America by the time that's done. And if they go down to North America first, Wales is going to help populate that area. If they try to do both, they're probably just going to end up having very little power to throw around in either land and just get pushed back to the place where they came from.
I think they should settle North America and attack Wales.
Interesting.
Yeah, settle North America because it's harder to attack North American civs from that position, I think. But we already know that Iceland is capable of coming down and conquering the British Isles because they did it in Part 2.
If they can put a good enough army in North America to actually keep those cities and build up the navy at the same time, there's a chance there.
I think they're founding enough cities to make it. They'll have enough production probably.
The question there would be, I guess, whether or not Wales could actually mount a counterattack.
Well,
no way.
I think that Wales isn't, as opposed to IRL Europe where people still in North America attacked Wales, actual Wales. Anywho, I think it's important to note that Wales isn't just a dead fish. I mean, they are fighting back Spain pretty well. They are on the verge of taking a Spanish city. They're not pushovers. They do have a military core. It's just not a naval core.
If they could ever get a melee unit over to that
No,
space,
actually, no. If you look at the end of turn video, Wales was pushed back from Santiago de Compostela, and there's no chance they're going to take it now.
They had Santiago de Compostela on the ropes for like 10 turns, but to get melee units over there, they have to cross the channel and either go forth into a forest or get embarked again and then try to attack the city while it's...
It's the moot point anyway, because according to the end of turn video, Santiago de Compostela is no longer heavily damaged.
I think what Santiago de Compostela doesn't look too well defended, but Wales doesn't have an actual stock of melee units in Caernarfon or whatever that city's called. So
Yeah.
it's until they actually get that city established and start putting melee units there, that city, Santiago de Compostela, is not falling for anything.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, but I think Wales is obviously not a dead fish as you put it right now, but I think in 10 parts it's entirely possible they could be just because they don't really have much
If
opportunities for expansion.
if they settle north and settle in the UK, they could probably get themselves relatively well established. But
Should we, given that we're sort of leaving the topic of Iceland, should we go to the curious case of the Kosovoans in the night?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really think there's much to talk about with Kosovo other than that their rank is super flimsy right now, in the sense that they settled a lot of cities, they have a strong core, they're really happy for some reason. So if they do take cities, they won't raise them. But at the same time, their science is garbo.
For me, though, I mean, they have one huge.
the science situation is only due to their negative gold right now. Remember.
For me, there's one huge thing with Kosovo, which is that they still have loads of space to settle. And when they do start rubbing shoulders with neighbors, it's going to be with Jerusalem, it's going to be with Georgia, and it's going to be with the most overrated civ in the game, Germany. So I don't see, I'm not really seeing a threat at the moment. The USSR is the only one I could.
But at the same time,
see, but they have other rivals. They have like Perm and Georgia.
I don't think Kosovo is in
Germany
danger.
like right next to them. So I don't think they're going to go for Kosovo anytime soon.
I think if Kosovo focused on the Middle East, they could easily make good headway. Of course, they have to repair their economy first, and the economy is a fickle beast that rarely does what you want it to, especially this early in the game.
See,
So
if y'all voted
kind of
in
based in the Greece
Qatar, you
area.
wouldn't have had this issue because they make so much gold.
They're kind of based in the Greece area, so I wonder if that's something to do with their economy, maybe.
Kosovo is kind of in like the Byzantium position from previous marks, and I think they've the mistake that Byzantium kept making in Mark II and in and that the Ottomans made in or that Byzantium made in both Mark I and Mark II, and that the Ottomans made in CBRX Season 1 was expanding into Europe, and then Kosovo is doing the opposite. They're expanding heavily into Anatolia, which is what they need to do. So that's pretty good.
I'd say if they're able to get their internals back in order, I'd say they're top choice if easily and could well turn out to be the biggest civ in the Middle East. They just need to get their internals in order first, and that's kind of hard when your internals are already looking to be disemboweled 2 parts into the game.
No, I 2 episodes is a flimsy thing, especially for something like gold, which the AI can eventually just start making millions of.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. They could have, they have like minus 18 gold per turn right now. It's entirely possible that in 5 turns they'll have it plus 18. It's just like, it's a mystery how this works. The AI just does it.
Yeah, I'm not really worried about the whole gold thing. I'm more worried about the science, whether the gold will... having gold will make the science better, or whether the science will still actually be kind of shit.
When you have negative gold, your science does get tanked horribly, so I would not be surprised if that's the reason they're at 13 instead of, 26, 52, whichever one of those numbers they'd be at.
15th is where we have them.
Well, in terms of the amount of science per turn they'd be making,
right.
had gold.
I think, as I say, for me, the reason I rank them quite high, I rank them really high, I rank them in the top 10, is because unlike a lot of the other European civs, and certainly like the Middle Eastern civs, I just don't see anybody who could take a decent chunk out of them right now. Not at all. To me, I don't know. I don't see two Sicilies being a threat. Certainly don't see Germany being a threat. Like I said, the only civ I see being a major existential threat to them currently is the USSR, and I think the USSR have 4 other rivals that would take up their time before Kosovo did.
Honestly, you could probably explain Kosovo's decision-making this so far by running a check to see if any neighbors as big as they are, and running as far away from the neighbors as possible if they are.
Yeah.
They have just seemed allergic to contact with anybody else so far, which is weird, given that they're bordering Europe and the Middle East, but how much isolated civ there.
Everybody else expanded away from them, so they're just chilling.
They even passed up the chance of the canal so they could keep running.
The canal doesn't matter. Everyone was really...
people get hyped about canals, but in the long run, they really don't do that much.
They don't really
matter. Some matter.
They don't really.
AI doesn't know how to use them.
Panama
especially
does matter to an extent.
Yeah.
It matters. It let Buccaneers, for example, take
Panama,
cities
Panama,
in Ecuador and Peru.
yeah, Panama matters greatly.
But Panama always gets settled. It's really easy to settle.
The Black Sea Mediterranean Canal I don't see as too much of an issue unless there's a
Doesn't
major
matter at all.
war in Russia, which there might be one.
Doesn't matter at all.
I'm more excited for Georgia because I know Georgia's going to take that Kurdish city in the Caspian.
And if some freak of the map lets you make a Black Sea Caspian Canal, then like, what are you even doing? Put the sea somewhere else.
You can't do that. The most interesting. It's feasible on the Mark 1 map. I don't know if it's still feasible on the Mark 2 one. But on the Mark 1 map, certainly, you could get a canal from St. Petersburg through Lakes Ladoga and Lake Onega to the White Sea, which is a canal that is completely unfeasible in our world.
Because on this map, the White Sea isn't connected to anything. So even if you can make that canal, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah,
Slowly making the map like better to run AI games on over time as next most of the obscure canals.
Yes, possibly. I mean, the other canal that no one ever mentions because it doesn't exist in the real world, so people forget that it exists in Civ, is the what's it called? What's that fucking peninsula called? The Malay one.
Yeah.
The Malaysian Peninsula.
Malay Peninsula.
Nah, but the isthmus has a name. The Kra canal.
Yeah,
The
but
Kra
like,
isthmus.
at that point, if you're making a canal for that, like, is it really that much? Is it really that worth it?
We have seen Kra come in useful in the past, actually, if he never was. Back in Mark II especially. But it's not so important. As I say, other than Panama and other than Suez, which never gets built, unfortunately, apart from Mark II.
Well, Suez was built in Mark II, and it was
apart from Mark II,
because it's because you can only funnel ships through the Red Sea like one at a time.
Yeah, true. I think the other issue is just no good Civ over control.
That's the Ayyubids had it first, if I remember correctly, but the Ayyubids died quick, and every Civ after then, when they held Vin, either they held it as like the southernmost part of their empire or the northernmost part of the empire, so they could never benefit.
Yeah, Vin was kind of a curse. A lot of Civs who held Vin ended up getting fucked pretty soon thereafter.
Except for that one time Sparta took Jerusalem. Am I right, boys?
If there was like a strong Middle Eastern power that actually originated in the Middle East and wasn't Sparta moving down to impose their will upon there, Vin could have been useful because then
ironically, the Ptolemies would have been the one to have fulfilled that, but they have not built the Suez.
The Ptolemies would have put to such good use, but they didn't make it.
Alas.
Anywho, we're talking about weird stuff. We still haven't even gotten through our entire movers list. Lesotho dropping to 29th. Why? They dropped 20 places.
They
lost the city to Namibia, of all things.
They lost the city and they had to call Big Brother Zaire to get back. I think that's why.
All right.
Yeah.
So that answers the question. I do think that, we kind of undersell Namibia a bit. I do think they are a middle power at best. But I've never seen Namibia do badly. They just don't. They just never win. You know what I mean?
I feel like they're relatively well off at the moment, or at least they would be if they weren't at war with both their neighbors, which is kind of an issue. Maybe they should fix that.
Okay, Namibia did quite badly in Royale, and they I think they're actually dead, possibly. And in Groundhog Day they were always unremarkable, but again, you can't draw too much from Groundhog Day. And then Top Hat says Namibia tends to start strong and hit a wall around medieval. I find they start okay and then hit a wall around medieval, but yeah.
I've just had an experience where they're just generally decent. This is very old Lesotho. I didn't think that, Lesotho was top tier. I do think that they have nice settles, but at the same time, like you guys said, they lost the city to Namibia, so...
I'd say 5 parts. 5 parts, and we will be able to figure out what's going on here. As it is, though,
in 5 parts, I'm going to make $10 off of Lax and Senshi.
Yeah, right.
As it is, though, we're caught in chaos. They can only really rely on each other's various lies that we're peddling to make sense of this horrible, horrible world. So, yeah.
I've already forgotten what the terms of that wager were. What were the terms of that wager?
That you and Senshi would give me $5 each if Tahiti still held from Hawaii after episode 6.
For episode 6, okay, that's fine. Yeah. Does it have to be Hawaii that conquers it, or can it just be anybody who conquers it?
It has to be Hawaii.
No, I'm pretty sure the bet was that Tahiti still holds it.
No,
do you
no,
have?
no. I've got it in recording.
We
It's on
could-
YouTube.
Yeah,
We could make an official ruling off this if we had the documentation.
I mean, we'll look at. I mean, when the time comes, I'll just re-watch episode 1 PRcast to make sure that I worded it properly.
I will say, I found out this week that I owe £650 that I didn't think I would have to owe. So my finances are very bad currently.
You can chill on the £5
To the mafia,
for
to the
about
mafia.
a year if you need to, bro. It's just $5.
It's to the mafia anyway. I said some things, I did some things, and now I have a lot of money.
Also, side note, I just realized that Teutonic Order definitely went towards honor, which is rough.
They went towards honor, but they went towards honor. But the first time they fight a war, they do this.
Yep. Okay, so
not very
anywho,
honorable.
moving
Honor
on
doesn't help you
from
fight wars. Honor's
Lesotho,
just
because
bad.
it looks like we had an answer. Moving up 21 places, Mississippi from 23rd all the way up to 2nd place.
Well, they fell a lot after part 1 because people were like, "Why was Mississippi ranked so high?" And then like they started doing well, and people were like, "Oh, that was why." So they went back up.
We remembered.
Oh, so we've got someone joining us. It's Rose. Rose has joined the podcast about an hour or so in.
Howdy, Rose.
Appear to be muted.
Rose is muted. At the
Rose
moment.
is muted. Rose's just here to listen.
Maybe.
Rose, you have decided to push to talk in order to say anything here in this tyrannical podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that one time during a PRcast episode I said we were talking too much.
It's on push to talk now.
All right,
There
there's Rose.
Huzzah.
Anywho, so we were talking about Mississippi. So yeah, they took, what was it, 1 or 2 cities off of Rio Grande?
Just the one.
Just the one, and they've also settled
Yeah, South
3
Carolina.
cities since then. So Mississippi, despite not having a coastal city, really doing a good job.
Well, they settled Lake Michigan, Wisconsin, Lake Michigan.
That doesn't count as a coast.
I raised them coming into last part because I thought the disease we're seeing exhibited by the neutral nation right now was one exhibited by the New Netherlands, and I thought, they might be able to actually settle decently into East America, perhaps steal the region from under their noses. But nope, they doubled down on West America, and turns out that was a very good thing for them to do because, hey, they just castrated their neighbor. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a decapitation. I mean, Rio Grande is still kind of in it. They're on 5 cities themselves still.
They can do things, but like, it sets the tone at the very least.
That's true.
Definitely.
And the other thing really working in their favor currently is the fact that 3 affiliated tribes in a completely unrelated incident also got their ass handed to them. So yeah, at the moment they're looking pretty nifty. The fact they have so much open space to the east of them is quite happy. It means that they can focus on wars with Rio Grande and to the west without really worrying about the New Netherlands being able to sort of transverse that forest and make much of an impact on them at the moment. It also, obviously, there is still land to settle potentially in the future unless New Netherlands gets there first.
Yeah, so you've really got a ton of factors that are coming together to explain Mississippi's rise in the ranks. You know, taking a city off Rio Grande, they have 6 cities total, which is a lot. They have good land, they have good stats, they have more land they can still expand into. They have several weak neighbors, so really, they're just in a really good position.
I love the settle of Attahachie as well. I want to really draw attention to that. It's founded at Port Huron, if you know where Port Huron is, just north of Detroit.
Thank you for the follow, JP. Appreciate it.
It's a city which is quite defendable from, but also would make a great forward base against the neutral nation capital, which is called Candocho, which is obviously in Lower Ontario. So I think that's a really interesting little settle they've put there. Obviously, the neutral nation, not an immediate, obvious rival to them, sort of diagonally adjacent.
But
But given that they're sucking so much, it might be an interesting little capital to
the
pick up early on.
The neutral nation have basically spent the first few turns here, making themselves a juicier and juicier steak for anybody who eventually decides that they're worth paying attention to.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're the first to arrive at the buffet, might as well dig in.
Of course.
So yeah, Mississippi just doing good. I mean, I was going into CBRX Series 1 very much supporting Poverty Point, who you don't need reminding of how Poverty Point did.
2 cities.
I know, that was
So
sad.
I'm kind of hoping Mississippi take revenge, if you like, as a sort of stimulus.
They definitely have more than 2 cities. Maybe they'll
Sure
have
do.
more than 6 titles.
We'll see. We'll see.
I mean, admittedly, the only thing I remember about Poverty Point now is that the Aztecs not the Aztecs, the Apache took a couple cities off them, and then the Aztecs took that city.
I remember that Poverty Point took that one Canadian city and crippled them forever, and then they didn't settle, and they crippled themselves forever, and then the Iroquois were just like, oh, okay, you just want to give us all of East America then? Sure.
Not that Canada
Yeah.
needed any help in being crippled. Let's
And
be real.
I mean, they were doing relatively okay. Then Poverty Point came along, and that's like all their brains left their skulls.
They left their brains in Montreal, and then Poverty Point took it.
And then Poverty Point ate the brain because
Exactly.
they definitely did use it themselves.
And
Got some
got
kind
prion
of
disease.
prion disease that crippled them for the rest of the game.
Gosh.
All right.
Should we move on?
Yeah, we should. Neutral Nation dropped
Oh, wow.
34 places from 17th all the way to 51st.
Yeah, for basically the opposite of everything. They just did the opposite of everything Mississippi did.
Well, at least Greg knows how Lex felt last season.
Sorry, say that again.
At least Greg knows how you felt last season,
Oh, it's Greg a Neutrals fan.
if I recall correctly.
Perhaps, I'm not sure.
Yeah, he and Dawkins both collaborated on Neutral Nation and Osage. So
Asagi, right?
I pronounced it Osage just because I'm super American. So, yeah, Osage.
It might be Osage.
Random would like to remind us that turn
fact-
120 Canada was equal to turn 20 Zimbabwe, and I remember now. I hate it.
fairness, I'm just-
To be
no, it is
clear, I call it
Osage. It's
Osage.
Osage. It's
I
Osage.
call it Osage because that's what I have known it as for years and years.
No, it is.
So.
It is Osage.
Alright.
I just read everything like it's completely phonetic. If it's not English.
Yeah. Oh God, I can't wait to show you to Lithuania.
This language is really the worst language for pronouncing things that are not meant to be put in English.
Yeah, I mean, literally, the rules of English pronunciation are a mystery even to me, and I ostensibly speak it.
Like it's convenient in some places, but like only having 26 letters and no real pronunciation guide really hurts when you have any foreign language ever.
That's why I really like Polish. It all makes sense. There's no extra rules.
Yeah,
I mean, most languages do. Italy,
No, in
Italian
Russian-
does, Spanish does.
In Russian, it's great because they just when they transliterate any foreign name, they just make it completely phonetic because they don't have any. They're not beholden in any way to the original spelling.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah. My surname's Jackson, and I was always amused to see them try and approximate a J sound
Jackson.
on my visa when I went
That's
to
what they
Russia.
say.
It was like DZH, I think. It was like, yeah.
Well,
it's close
yeah,
enough.
but it's pronounced essentially the same. They would say Jackson.
Jackson.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
Miss
how
Jackson.
your name was
I am
pronounced.
for real.
Sorry, I lied. My surname's Ariscal. It's obvious. You can see that.
Obviously.
But yes,
but
the
yeah.
neutrals. There's nothing really to say other than they've been shit.
Well,
Like,
yeah,
the
the
two
neutrals.
cities.
The neutrals haven't settled the city since episode 1, because they haven't settled anything outside of their capital.
Maybe not even turn 1, given how close that city was.
Well, yeah.
Turn 4 or 5. Yeah, I can tell you actually.
It was a
settled
very-
Do
in-
they
it
even
was a
have any
very
settlers?
early
I don't think they
city.
do.
It was a very early city, and you know we usually expect them to outgrow the New Netherland, but since New Netherland is now one of the big dogs in North America, and Neutral Nation is actually the smallest.
I disagree.
What
with
did
that.
you- settled in turn
Big
eight?
dog in North America. They just look good in comparison to a neutral nation.
Well, when I say
they
big
still
dog,
got
I
a
mean
lot
that
more
they're
control.
contending, which is more than Neutral Nation is doing right
I'd
now.
say New Netherlands are like more like not contending. If you know what I mean.
We're
Rather than
not
contending.
contending.
The thing is, like, unlike someone like, say, Spain, even, like, the New Netherlands still has potential because they have expansion room. One of their neighbors is Jamaica, who's busy in a war right now.
Yeah.
So, but as long as, like, they don't get utterly destroyed by Mississippi, they're in good shape.
Yeah, they have lots of land to settle. If they decide to settle it, then just the fact of where they are, the fact that literally every civ except Mississippi and the neutral nations is already running out of space in North America.
I'm a bit real. I don't really know where the new generation goes. Like, yeah, they can settle the eastern seaboard, but they're gonna just eventually contend with Mississippi, who are looking stronger than them. I don't know where else.
They can
I don't know their pathway to victory here.
I'd say they can at least sell like 3 cities where they are, which is more than everyone else in North America but the Mississippi and New Netherlands. So that's something. But settling those 3 cities would only put them on par with everyone else in North America. And once they do that, they don't really have anything.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly it. But hey, we could be surprised. I mean, Iroquois weren't looking phenomenal at this stage in the game either, so we can.
Maybe,
as I say, there's
maybe
potential still, I suppose.
maybe they might even get to take an autocracy, though. Knowing them, they'll go freedom.
Hopefully, they get the classic episode 3 ideology. Should we go to Nigeria, which is our next one?
We've already talked about Nigeria
Oh,
extensively.
should we go to Rio Grande, which is our next one?
We can talk about Rio Grande for a bit, yeah.
Again, we've already kind of mentioned that they slipped for 15 places, down from 16 to 31. Honestly, of all the civs that actually lost the city this episode, Rio Grande probably had the lowest kind of hit. As it were.
I mean, they could lose half their empire and still probably be better off than the Tongva. So,
not quite true. The Tongva get a lot of hate because they're very anonymous. But
I like the Tongva. I want them to do well. It's just that I know the civs I like and the civs that are good are perpetually destined to be opposite each other.
Yeah. I mean, I think that at the end of the day, Rio Grande still has a lot of potential just because of its actual size. And since the Olmecs are involved in a war with Jamaica, I don't see the Olmecs as a threat to Rio Grande, despite their huge carpet. So
yeah, Olmecs have a huge army for only 2 cities. It's quite spectacular.
Well, they just haven't built any settlers. So
Yeah.
they're just sitting there. I mean, they might have settled them out. I'm not sure. I'm going to be able to tell you.
They
But
might
they're just sitting there building military. That's all they're doing.
They might end up bullying their weaker neighbors, then getting bullied by Mississippi in turn, like sort of Mark I Carthage.
I actually wouldn't be surprised. This is kind of off topic, but I actually wouldn't be surprised if Jamaica just gave away a city to the Olmecs in the peace treaty after no fighting takes place.
Oh, that would be classic.
Classic.
Scenario where Olmecs eat Jamaica, Rio Grande eats Olmecs, and then Mississippi eats Rio Grande.
Oh yeah, just a chain of people running away from the Mississippi. Maybe Jamaica eats Gran Colombia too.
I don't know. At this rate, I feel like Jamaica's probably going to lose a city to Gran Colombia.
They're probably going to lose a city, but like, if we're going to go imagining, why don't we go all the way out?
Just to sort of bring it back to Rio Grande, one of the other kind of big issues for them at the moment, in my opinion, is that except for the neutrals who are in a similar situation, they're the only North American civ now whose capital is like right on the border now. One more unsuccessful war with Mississippi, and they will lose their capital probably. That's like the next one to go. There's Matamoros up in New Mexico as well, but
all the more
those 2 cities.
Yeah, all the more important they build up their military then. If they take somebody else's capital, there's less of a loss.
Yeah, but again, there's other than the Olmec capital, which is pretty well defended at the moment. There's not really a capital they can go for.
I don't know. They could try to go for Tongva, I guess.
Yeah, there's a city in the way. There's a city just on the head of the Gulf of California. What's it called? Puyunga.
Yeah, they could take that.
I mean,
I'm not sure what good it would do them.
They could try to throw boats at Jamaica, but the Mississippi are probably also going to try throwing boats at Jamaica at some time or another, so that's probably not an option.
Does Rio Grande even have any coastal cities?
Yes, they have 2. One on the Gulf of Mexico and one on the Pacific Ocean, both in Mexico.
Yeah.
What's happening? Oh god. Did any of you guys see that just now?
Are you alright, sir?
Oh god, what's happening?
Stop! Oh no!
Tab over to the Twitch to see this.
Fucking Warhammer video.
My liege, what's going on?
My video is spazzing out. I'm going to have to mayhaps edit the PRCast to stop a seizure from happening on my watch. Because
I'm gonna clip it real quick.
I didn't realize we needed an epilepsy warning on this show.
I mean, it's not going to even be an epilepsy warning. I'll probably just try my best at editing in a black screen for like 5 seconds. So
okay, fair.
I might honestly forget that, and I might accidentally cause a seizure because I'm stupid, but it'll be fine.
And you got all that money you guys are getting off stocks can be used to pay for the damages.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this show needs a trigger warning for violence and sexual content.
Yeah, but then I'll never get YouTube partnership. Anywho, let's move on to. We already talked about the Teutons.
Teutons,
I guess
baby.
we can talk about
the
the
only people
Teutons.
watching now are us. Everyone else has left.
That's not true. I
Only
have
4
six.
viewers.
There's 4 of us. I'm watching.
I'm
I
not
think
watching.
I'm one of the
I'm
watchers.
watching.
I think Top Hat might be the 4th.
I never watched the stream.
Oh, maybe.
What
I
if
don't know.
what if Top Hat or random?
Mine says.
If
He clipped it. Mine says 6 viewers right now. But thank you for the
Um,
clip, JP.
JP1347 is actually me.
Oh God, I don't mean to open that up. Oh God. Anywho.
My laptop runs on Vista, so if I tried to stream the Twitch and be in the Twitch at the same time, then
All right. So that's what 4 of us and 1 more.
Yeah,
Well,
like
whatever.
1 or 2 more.
guys, it'll go viral on YouTube. The replay. I can see this one going viral. We just need to put some
Viral
hot-
100 views plus.
Do
Okay,
they?
actually no, we're rebranding the PR cast. It's now the PR TikTok challenge cast.
The PR pup.
We come up with a TikTok challenge for every single civ and profit ?
Oh yeah, do the neutral. Stand in one place and do nothing.
Oh goodness, thank goodness the stream didn't pick up on the flashing that I got on my screen, so it's
Okay.
fine. So
No,
I don't
getting
need an
the flash
epilepsy
and
warning.
get Warhammer. That's about it, though.
Yeah. I mean,
Wait.
it's probably because I relentlessly play Total Warhammer, and I've also started building my Warhammer Age of Sigmar army. So
I have no idea what any of this means. Should we move on to the Teutons?
yeah,
Yeah.
the Teutonic Order. So let's be honest, they are in a shitty start location. We all knew this. They're in the Prussia start location, which was bad enough as it is. And they got DOW'd by the USSR, and the USSR took Danzig, and it's just not pretty.
They're our first non-island last place.
Yeah, so they dropped to last place because they're the first civ in this game so far that is like actually in danger of dying soon.
Yes, this is true. I mean, we talk about being between a rock and a hard place a lot. I think the USSR in this instance is the rock in that it's currently hitting them.
It's rolling.
And,
It's rolling over to them.
Germany will be the hard place of a civ, but I wouldn't.
So,
I really wanna fancy
so
having
we
Germany
didn't
as the
put
civ
Poland
invade.
in this game. Why again?
Because the voters are dumb.
All right.
Hey, I voted Poland. My hands are sealed. My hands.
I also voted Poland.
I voted Latvia, so.
So
Ew,
That was amazing.
Latvia.
I know that.
For any Latvians watching the stream, that's not an ew at you. It's an ew at the civilization choice.
I like Latvia.
No, Latvia is actually just bad, like as a country.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Latvia. I'm sorry, Latvians, but you're worse than Poles.
Mooney's an absolute shambles.
All right.
I
So,
didn't say teach. Run an absolute shambles.
Sorry?
Teach an absolute shambles.
What's an absolute shambles? Cake.
No, teach me please from CBR Discord. He's also from
Oh.
Latvia.
Oh man.
Latvians.
Yeah, again, guys, we're not shitting on Latvians. We are shitting on not even the Civ itself, just choosing Latvia over Piłsudski's Poland.
I like Latvia.
it's not that you're bad. It's just they have more to offer.
I enjoyed watching them in AI Scandinavia about 5 years ago, okay? So I'm going to vote for Latvia every time.
All right. So
Don't at me.
I know the Teutonic Order are in a terrible position. I know they probably have no real chance of getting out of here. However, if you were to play devil's advocate, how would you salvage this game if you were the Teutonic Order?
Build
Make
settlers
peace
and
with USSR
move.
immediately. Settle straight down toward the Black Sea because there's a ton of resources there. It build a lot of units and then hold on until I can actually attack somebody.
That works, I guess, but the dreaded straight line strategy is generally not what you want to fall back on.
It's not the straight line strategy. It's that's literally the only place they have left to go.
I have a better one. Build 3 settlers. Move them to let's say, Eastern Siberia.
I was gonna say the British Isles.
And just GTFO Europe and
The Teutonic Order's an Asian
Europe.
civ
We're a
now.
Siberian civ now.
Actually, exactly where they would thrive. A good area.
That's what Georgia is doing.
Kojo. Like
Yeah, I was about to
Xinjiang.
say, are you going to recommend that they just go chill
I
and
think
perm with
Georgia
Georgia?
is playing the long game. Tamar is planning to settle lots of cities on both sides of the USSR and then absorb the USSR.
I think if the Teutonic Order are going to get out of this situation, get relevant again, it's going to be because Georgia did something. Georgia is what their hopes rest on right now.
Why?
For what?
Yeah, why?
For one, there's the fact that if the USSR goes after Georgia, then that's another 5 parts that Teutonic Order gets to not die. For another, if the Teutonic Order ever wants to mount a counterattack against the USSR, as stupid and as ill-advised as it may be, they'd need Georgia's approval first.
Well, all of this presumes that the USSR makes peace with the Teutonic Order in the next part and doesn't just completely continue to roll over them until they're dead.
Yeah, another good reason why Georgia's important, because Georgia's the only civ in this game that might actually have a chance of drawing the USSR's attention away from the Teutonic Order with more shitty random settles.
Do we all just forget Perm exists?
Yeah, perm is right there.
Even to an extent.
Perm forgets Perm exists.
Perm have been not really. Perm have been aggressively forward selling the USSR while the USSR.
Don't forget about all Russia. They look pretty scary.
Like,
I generally think Perm are underrated right now, but that's just me.
I mean, I think the problem with Perm is right now they're the meat in a sandwich comprised of two very large Russian powers. If they can get themselves a land border with someone, they might have a chance of defeating it.
Who's the other Russian power that Teutonic Order are the meat in between?
No, Perm is the meat.
Oh, Perm. Sorry. No, I disagree. I think we've proven that Parg, as the most powerful early game civ, and he's still number 1 in our rankings. We've proven that at the moment they can't really get through the Urals and do much to Perm.
Yep.
The USSR are going in another direction. I think Perm have a chance to
The
really build up.
civ invading through there has to go around the bottom through Kazakhstan, Tomsk area.
The issue with Perm right now is the odds of them getting it. They don't really have a land border with any Russian civs. Non-Russian civs, and they don't really have a way to get a land border with any non-Russian civs unless they settle south quickly.
Yeah, so
if they can't do that, if they can't get themselves a way to launch attacks on Georgia or Uzbekistan, or at least get themselves a border with one of the two, so they have one less civ to worry about.
No, I could see Perm taking on USSR, especially given you forget how often in the early game a civ will focus their army on attacking one area, move their army to that side, and then just not defend their other border. And then lose loads of cities. This happens so much in the early game of CBR. I could really see Perm. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but I could definitely see Perm taking advantage of a moment like that and taking a couple of cities from them.
But
Sure.
How many troops do Perm have actually? That could be something they could do.
I don't know. At the moment, it's not really on the table because Perm's troops are pretending to defend against the PARG troops that are pretending to attack them. So
all right, yeah. In that case,
irrelevant.
They would need peace with all Russia first.
But that'll happen.
So I guess if you're a Perm fan, root for the Teutonic Order to stay at war and potentially die, because then you might get cheap shot in.
I'm a Georgia fan.
I like Georgia too. I hope they do well.
Yeah. Honestly, a shout out to my Part 0 quote, which is, I just want Georgia to have a good time. Because everybody underrated them, and look at them now. They're really funny. They're really tee funny.
They're certainly having a good time. That's for sure.
They're having snowball fights right now. Awesome.
They've basically guaranteed well, actually, no, they haven't. The USSR could just kill them both ways, but whatever they're doing, it's fun. I like it. I want them to do it more. I want them to sell cities behind Perm.
I think at the end of the day, what Georgia did isn't a bad thing. Just because I want to talk about Georgia real quick. I don't think what Georgia did was a bad thing. I think getting out of the Caucasus was an important move. They may have overshot their mark a little bit, though.
Just a little.
It's a total waste of production.
I think what happened was they were trying to settle cities, but the USSR settled those cities first, and then the Georgian settlers didn't want to walk all the way back, so they were just like, "Oh, we're just gonna find a new place to settle cities."
Genuinely, that may well be how the AI works.
I think
but
Georgia should just settle behind every civ. And this will eventually result in a contiguous empire spanning the entire
Remember the
world.
Brazilian peacekeepers? Imagine that, but they're permanent bases.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
was gonna say, is it just like Long Chile where it just encompasses the entire perimeter of the world?
All the coasts. Yeah.
All is
Yeah,
Georgia.
Georgia should take all the inland. So just leave the coasts for the
Oh
plebs.
god. We've had peacekeeping groups before, but a single civ that peacekeeps half the map.
Should we go to the 3 affiliated tribes, or do we feel like we've covered them enough? when
We
did North
covered
America?
them. They fucked up. They settled the
I-
city in the middle of a
I don't-
war
I don't
right up
think- I
against
don't
the
think
person
that-
they were at war with.
I don't think we covered them on record, though. To be fair, most of what we did off record was yell at Dene for being stupid and conquer everything but the original war target.
Well, they did conquer the original war target. They just then burned it to the ground and let them resettle it about a tile away.
I think 3 affiliate tribes are going the way of the Sioux very rapidly.
Which sucks because I love 3 affiliated tribes.
Weirdly, whenever anyone says, "Oh, they're going," like whenever anyone conjures up the Sioux in CBR, I think the only example I just think of Mark 1 Sioux. I never think of Mark 2 Sioux.
Weird.
Weird
I-
because
I-
Mark 2 Sioux was way more fun than Mark 1
Yeah,
Sioux.
it's true.
Yeah,
I
I
Mark 1
literally got
I imagine the Mark
resurrected
1
3
Sioux.
times.
Yeah, whenever I think of somebody mentions the Sioux, I just imagine heaven with a revolving door.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Yeah, but
Well, yeah, there's nothing much more to say on TAT really. They lost a war. They slipped in the ranks. Are you
Yeah.
shocked?
You know, speaking of resurrections, I really hope we get a Seabricks resurrection this season. We didn't get one last season. And
No, we didn't.
it was nice that we didn't have to have a hernia while calculating the final ranks, but it's also kind of sad.
yeah.
No, I think it's all part of the fun. And I am of the firm belief that if you get resurrected, you immediately teleport upwards in the ranks because that's more fun.
Yeah. Shout out to TA,
If
who
you could
once
successfully
again
appeal to the
bought out
citizens-
all Rome stock back during Mark II, while they were dead, hoping upon all hopes that they got revived. Didn't happen, but
What
it
if
was a good
Would have
dream.
been the coup of the game.
The
Should-
Philippines got revived.
Yeah,
I
you
was
should
very
have
happy.
Philippines stock. They died like not much long after, and they did get revived.
That didn't really count so much because they were a city-state because of
Yes, it did
instability
count. Yes, it
issues.
did count. Philippines finished in the top 10. How dare you?
So now
am
that
the
we're
one last
done
remaining
with best movers and worst movers, I do want to talk about just a handful of civs. So first of all, do we got any thoughts on Zanzibar?
Yeah, they're doing alright.
Yep,
I think they're possibly gonna go up. Like Somalia just researched boats. We don't know if they're gonna build boats or if they're even if they're gonna use the boats. It's a big question because also maybe Zanzibar builds boats and use boats. I mean, so far Zanzibar is setting itself up with a better like series of cities than Somalia is. Somalia's cities are absolute trash. They're just in the middle of the desert. Zanzibar's capital is trash, but their other cities so far are very good.
Zanzibar cities are extremely well defended to protect against Somalia, and because South Africa is such a who the hell's winning clusterfuck right now, they are in a good position to make a name for themselves if they decide to settle quick.
Yeah, I really like their third city, which I believe is Malindi. No, sorry, Dar es Salaam. It's a really nice settle in North Mozambique because it's coastal. It provides jumping off points on Madagascar, but it's also just like quite a distance away from Lesotho. It's under no threat from them really at the moment. It's a really nice place that they could build like a little small core from, which is exactly what they need if they want to, just make it any further in the game. Somalia being terrible helps. I definitely think Zanzibar for me holds a slight edge over Somalia as a whole, but Somalia. Maybe less under threat. I'm not sure who invades Somalia. Whereas I could see Zaire or perhaps Lesotho in the future, eventually building a more powerful core.
Hot take: Chola invades Somalia.
Oh God, I hope so.
I could see it, especially if they can get past the Hijaz.
Yeah.
They still need to do Hejaz first because of coastal tiles.
I think the major move that Somalia made in Part 1 was cutting off Indian Ocean access for Hijaz for their second city, but that immediately got circumvented by the AI, so it's just like it doesn't even matter anymore. So, like, I think Somalia's time in the sun, if they don't start settling west like crazy, I think their time in the sun was very short-lived and it burned out quickly.
Yeah.
I
Right now-
will say, one thing I do really enjoy, and I believe they're the only civ who this is true of currently, is that Somalia have currently settled the exact territory of Somalia and nowhere else. They
They're
literally are Somalia currently.
Well, I'm pretty sure all the USSR's cities are in territory controlled by the
Yes,
USSR.
but they haven't conquered Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Ukraine.
and
Ukraine.
the USSR were like
Somalia literally
that's the world.
they control all of Somalia and only Somalia. They have just made Somalia.
It's much harder to make a perfectly accurate Somalia than a perfectly accurate USSR because you're not painting with a massive paintbrush that just covers half of Asia, being like, okay, that's my nation, that's where I live.
I think it's the most impressive geographical feat so far. Slightly more
impressive than Sweden settling 2 of its 3 additional cities in their actual real-life locations.
Sweden's is impressive. Honestly, what impresses me more is the Tuareg who founded the obscure oasis city of Ubari, exactly on Ubari, which is, like, given they had the whole Sahara to pick from, Sweden is quite small, but given they had the whole Sahara to pick from to put that 3rd city, and they picked the exact right Libyan oasis.
Telling the AI to sell a Sahara is just telling an AI to throw darts at a wall. All the cities are equally shit.
Yeah, it doesn't matter though.
It's just a shame that we don't really have any real civilizations that get huge benefits off of desert in the Sahara other than Omar Mukhtar's Libya, and that civ got dumpstered early on.
Well, I should have voted for the Garamantes who actually get.
Oh yeah, no. Well, the Garamantes don't count because nobody voted for them because people have shit opinions.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was like, how dare you guys not vote the Garamantes? They get fresh water.
The lesson here is that we should not live in a democracy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with Blue Cassette picking the entire roster so long as they include Rhode Island.
Blue Cassette picking the entire roster basically means it's like it'd probably be like me and Top Hat Paladin pick the entire roster.
Yeah, honestly.
If we let Rion pick the entire roster, it will be all vanilla civs, and I'm not joking.
If you let who do it?
Rion.
If you let Rion do it.
Oh yeah.
But I want to see the Shoshone.
All right. The civ that has maintained the same rank for 3 parts in a row, Dutch East India Company.
Well, I mean, but due to the only thing to say about the Dutch East India Company, the only thing interesting about them is that they've retained the same rank since Part 0. There's nothing else to say.
I mean, they do own Krakatoa.
I will say this: the one time I did have the fortune of seeing the Dutch East India Company in actual play. First of all, it was extremely bootleg AI game that is CHG, so it doesn't count much. But secondly, the main reason they won that game, but the main reason they were able to was because my civ left them like half the fucking map worth of space to get, and then when their AI sold 10 cities in the span of a part, we were like, oh shit, okay, I guess we'll die now. This time, Malacca's like actually completely closed them off, except for those 2 islands of theirs. So
yeah, they have to expand in a straight line east, and when you resort to the straight line strategy, it's not good.
Yeah,
especially when you're in Indonesia.
Yeah. So in addition to generally not being that good in general, the only thing I've seen them do well in the past, which is bounce off an uninspiring early game to have a strong middle game, is sort of being taken away from them because they can't really sell cities anymore.
So, speaking of Malacca, let's talk about Malacca.
Malacca are like the civ I'm most happy to see doing well. I really wanted Malacca to do well.
I feel like Malacca doing well has actually like caused a significant improvement in Orange's mental health.
Oh.
I mean, I just want Malacca in because it's a funny Greek word, teehee haha.
I don't want to know.
I'm really not sure. Like, on the one hand, I know I have every reason to believe in Malacca. They have great stats. They have an army that actually looks good. They're probably going to use said army, given where it's headed. But on the other hand, I just don't know. Like, their start has very few people have actually done what they are doing, which is settling Indonesia and then somehow being good.
Here's the thing: VOC not a threat.
VOC are not a threat. Yes.
Laos,
Laos, not a
their
threat.
entire army is pointed
Yeah.
at the
Vietnam,
Koreans.
not
So
a threat in the slightest.
Not a threat.
I keep thinking they're like might be a paper tiger, but then I look at the region around them and I'm like, oh right, everyone here doesn't even have the offensive power of a gust of wind.
everyone here is just paper. I will say the thing about Malacca do look very impressive on paper with 7 cities, but 4 of them are on Borneo, which is
Yeah.
great if you want to conquer Borneo,
Yeah.
but not
Like,
much use otherwise.
Again, it's great if they want to conquer Indonesia, but I don't think conquering Indonesia is a good way to win the game.
No, you're right.
Unless you're Lan Fang, apparently.
Their big path to victory would be to push up through Laos right now. I would agree with that. And then Vietnam, who are also doing very badly.
Yeah, I
Very
think
sad about that.
they should settle. They should settle into Southeast Asia. Thailand.
Although given where we had them to start, just the fact that they're being mentioned with path to victory in the same sentence without somebody making a joke about it is already very
Oh
encouraging.
yeah, no, they're
Definitely.
doing very impressive.
Honestly, I thought Kulin had a huge path to victory until Malacca showed up and actually did good. So, I had Kulin at second place, but now that they have an actual competitor, I'm like, I don't know.
The instant Oceania gets an actually good power. It's like the token Australian civ that does very well against the other token Australian civ always looks very good, and then Oceania gets an actual power again, and all of a sudden it's like, oh right, they're stuck on that island. They can't really do anything.
Yep.
I mean, Australia's kind of just to sort of pivot to that. It's kind of an interesting one at the moment because I think Kulin's still definitely the more powerful civ, but Anangu did creep up in the ranks this part. I think people have noticed that the Anangu military is a lot bigger than the Kulins.
Yeah.
Obviously, Kulin just founded a very, very, I would say,
Weird
civil
city.
forward settle.
Yeah.
Is it a forward settle if it's behind the Onongo?
A backward settle. I mean, here's the thing. I think I actually wrote the write-up for Kulin, I think, this episode, and my sort of summary was, I think a war is likely because Anangu have a much higher military and Kulin just forward settled them. I think Anangu are quite likely to declare war. If they do and they take Kuluru, I think Kulin still have the upper hand. They have the better land. They both have 5 cities, and Kulin have the better stats other than military.
Yeah.
But if Anangu push forward if they take Kuluru and push forward into Kulin territory anymore, if they take like Balug in South Australia, Murulbak would be the first one, then Balug.
Okay, but I'm
that
calling
point-
it now. It's all going to belong to Malacca by part 40.
Well, maybe. But the point is, I think actually it's really evening up in Australia at the moment in a way that I guess I didn't expect it to after episode 1. I thought, oh yeah, this is just going to be another Kulin win. And like I said, I'd still hold the edge handed to Kulin at the moment, but we're now talking more like 65-35 than 90-10. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there.
I still think the Kulin are most likely to win, but if I was the Onongu's dad and I was trying to intentionally play the game looking well but actually being very weak so they could mount a come from behind victory, I would do this.
Yeah.
I'd be doing exactly this.
Yeah, I think, well, like I say, we'll see what happens. I think that little grievance of settling so close to their other cities, I think, and it should mention as well, the city of Murulbak is really close to the Anangu capital as well. So that's 2 forward settles, really. I think this grievance is going to add up, and I think, given Anangu have the bigger military, I do think a war is more likely than not, episode 3. Although, yeah, it's kind of unpredictable with that sort of stuff, so we'll see. Hopefully it's a war quicker than between Mark II Australia and the Kimberley.
Okay.
So that was 20 episodes until we got a war there.
My next civ to talk about, Yuan.
Oh right, that one.
Do we have to?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go off to make dinner.
We've got 2 civs left to talk about, and one of them is Yuan. Are you sure you can't say?
Okay.
Let's go to the other one.
I find the Yuan interesting. Like, they're not going to take them. They didn't take the Manchu city, which is only to be expected, given that they were trying to fight the very earliest war in the game and fighting against a civ that wasn't completely hopeless. But they've managed to somehow piss off literally everyone around them. The one person who wasn't around them, Japan, have actually put themselves in a position to where they are around them now. They seem to not be able to decide whether they want to be very good at this game or very bad. They're at war with both the Northern Yuan and Taiping, which would normally be a death sentence, but they're also pretty big themselves. Really, the Civ is just a mess of contradictions and paradoxes, and ways that they could jump up to top spot next part, and ways they could drop 30 ranks and end up in the cellar the next.
All right. Admiral or Lax, you got anything to say on that?
Yeah, I would just say that Yuan has like, somehow they're at war with everybody and just nothing is happening. So that's kind of why I'm disappointed.
I'm sure something will happen, right? They wouldn't stay terrible for that long, right? Right. This
They're
place,
not even bad. It's just like there's so many people attacked them, and
something's going to happen. The fireworks can start whenever they want to.
It's also
One thing
notable
is-
to note that Yuan is not at war with Northern Yuan anymore.
No, they made peace. They made peace.
All right.
One thing that's kind of interesting to me, I really stress kind of. Yuan have done a good job of settling around their capital. There's a city pretty much in every cardinal direction from their capital, except I guess the Yellow Sea is what's east of it. But on the other hand, the Manchu, the Northern Yuan, and Taiping, they're bordering cities with the Yuan. For each of them is their capital. So on the one hand, that's your main production base. You've got 3 production bases pointed right towards the Yuan. But on the other hand, they play their cards right. That's 3 easy capitals. Don't even have to annihilate the Civ.
Yeah.
Just take
someone
one city.
said
You got
play
the
their
capital.
cards right.
Yeah.
You
So
got it. Take a drink, guys. Take a drink.
yeah. So
Like this.
I guess either they're going to be a top 5 Civ, or they're going to just doze a bit, or they're just going to fall off, have the wheels fall off when all their neighbors decide to kill them.
Yeah,
Or
I
I
think
think they can also just be like a
Yeah,
middle.
or they can also
Yeah,
just
they
stay
can
where
also
they are
just
So
right
be
they can
really
they can
good because
literally
they
end
don't
up being any
expect-
rank.
this
Congratulations.
is what I mean. I think this is kind of why I'm not that interested in talking about them, because they're such an unknown quantity right now. There's nothing I can say to predict where they're going to go. It's like, yep, they're all right. They're surrounded by civs that are all right.
Well, the more reason to talk about them in my eyes. If I could make idle speculation and watch it blow up in my face, that's the greatest joy I can get.
All right.
Yeah,
And
fair
the
enough.
final Civ I want to talk about for today is Jawara.
Why?
Oh, okay.
Why
Because
can we
none
talk
of you will
Palmeiras?
say
They're
anything
interesting.
about them, other than that you don't like them right now, and I want to hear why.
Well, here's the thing. South America is made up of 2 types of civs currently. There is what I would call the Gran Colombia tier, which is Gran Colombia and Peru, Bolivia, of being hilariously embarrassingly bad. And then there's kind of the Palmeiras, Paraguay, Mapuche axis, which is like, yep, 4 or 5 cities, decent, not bad stats, not particularly good stats, but at least they're all sort of average together. Mapuche, obviously, the front runner there. And then there's just this one outlier of a civ that isn't hilariously bad, like Gran Colombia and Peru, Bolivia, but also just isn't good at all. They have 3 cities and very lackluster stats. And that's the Jawara. They're just sitting there taking up space. They're not going to invade anyone anytime soon. Are they going to settle more cities? Maybe, but I don't really see any evidence towards that. They're just waiting to be eaten by Palmeiras, who I did the write-up for, and thus, as with every civ I do the write-up for, I'm madly supporting them for this episode.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. Well, it's a good way to look at it. Much better than my way of looking at it, which is to categorize them into the fun and good, Mapuche and Paraguay, fun and not good, Peru, Bolivia, and Gran Colombia, and fun and offensively boring, Palmeiras and Jawara.
I don't think Palmeiras are that boring. The thing is, Palmeiras, A, have already gone to war with Paraguay, albeit they didn't do anything. B, have founded 5 cities, which is more than any of the civ.
Going
Mapuche.
to war with Paraguay, I think, is just something that transcends boundaries of interestingness or not. So Lano Lopez is something we're going to declare war against.
Well,
So
true.
here's my question, Lax. Do you think Jawara's exponential food and growth are going to play a factor in time, or do you think it's too little, too late?
I've not exactly seen civs with high population focuses that grow really tall necessarily do very well. I mean, one of the most popular civs in South America back in season 1 was the Quikero. Arrest my case.
Well, I would argue that the Kuikuro literally lived in the jungle. You know,
The
and the Jawara don't.
Yeah, but the Jawara have a key difference. They're
They're-
allowed to cut it down.
They have boats. They have boats. They have a
But-
coast.
But that's going to
They
hurt
were
them.
allowed to cut it down. They just didn't have to.
If the
The
Mara
AI
Jawara cut
didn't
down the
think to cut
Amazon,
it down
then
because they had the food bonus, but that ended up hurting them in the long run. In terms of
Mara-
expansion. Defensively, they were a masterpiece, but...
Also, I hate to be the pronunciation police again, but is it the Jawara or Marajoara?
It would be probably. I assume it would be Marajoara, as they're in Brazil, and they pronounce the J like je.
I literally only know that because I'm a Spurs fan, and I only just learned how to pronounce Jose Mourinho.
Oh.
Jose
you're-
I forgot you're all
Mourinho.
American.
Oh, you're a Spurs fan. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, somebody knows
Well,
what
I'm like, what's it like?
The thing is, I kind of chose to support Spurs pretty recently when I got back into football, after making peace with the fact that you can be a trans woman and like football, and I kind of picked them consciously, being like, I'd like to support I'd like to support a team that do well, but never actually win anything.
No,
So I'm doing all right.
no.
Lolly, I'm British. We're not like you
You're
Americans.
you're a step above Arsenal fans.
Well, we're certainly better than Arsenal fans. We're British. We're not like Americans. We don't like to succeed.
You're a step worse than Arsenal fans. I have St. Tottenham say specifically to make fun of you.
We don't like to succeed. Tell that to all the bandwagoning English people who would now support Liverpool.
I'm
Or
supporting Leeds.
supported Liverpool the year
So
before
who
the
do you support?
pandemic, I should say.
Who do you support?
I'm supporting Leeds. I'm like, this is the one good season I'll ever have, and I'm treasuring it.
Why do you support Leeds?
Listen, I was like 6, and I was playing FIFA, and I thought their logo looked cool, and I was like, yes, this is it. This is the team I want to support.
Yeah, no, that's good a reason as any. Leeds are like my local, it's like, I say local. My local club's York City, but like Leeds are the local Premier League team right now. They're like 15 miles down the road.
Can't relate to any of you guys. I'm Sunderland till I die.
Oh,
God.
okay.
Okay, you know what?
It's only because my grandfather was from Hartlepool, so...
Well, why not be a Hartlepool fan, you asshole?
Because it's a fucking tier 4 team. What do you mean?
What is Sunderland but a slightly better tier 4 team?
Like,
Yeah.
Sunderland have made the Premier League. Hartlepool, no.
I'm a complete pleb. I just watch football for when the World Cup comes around, and then I just root for the smallest countries that are in it.
Honestly, that's good.
That's that's respectable.
There's less suffering that way.
Yeah, not everyone can be like me and my dad right now, so I got really into international footy, and I started watching like the Asian Cup and international friendlies all the time and Nations League, everything. And so my dad is sitting there like, Qatar are going to go out in the first round. And I'm sitting there like, I'm willing to bet you that they win at least 2 games at the World Cup. So I'm going to fucking put, a couple hundred on that. And
Which team?
Because the host always wins, always does better than
I'm sorry.
than they would
Do you remember a little
convinced
team called South Africa? South Africa at the South African World Cup.
Okay,
I
true.
rest my case.
Like,
South Africa did alright. South Korea did.
yeah, I mean,
did
South
decent as
Korea
well,
made
but
the
Japan didn't.
semi-finals.
Yeah.
I'm
South Korea
convinced.
really
I'm
did.
convinced Russia making it to the semifinals in the one that they hosted is definitely a conspiracy.
They didn't
I-
make it
I-
to the semifinals. They made it to the
semis.
quarterfinals.
Made it to the quarters.
Or
It
quarterfinals.
was
They did.
England, Belgium, France, and
I mean, you're not
Croatia.
wrong, Cloud, because WADA figured out that the Russian athletes had been doping, and they're literally banned from flying the flag at the World Cup in 2022 if they qualify.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I didn't actually know they were caught doping. I just knew that they shouldn't have done that well. It was just.
on the one hand, I don't think Qatar's that good, but on the other hand, if any team in any World Cup is going to get a host nation bounce, it's going to be Qatar.
well,
Or a
I mean,
cutout
I
round.
just like to point out the fact that they literally won the Asian Cup while none of their fans were in the stadium because of
Yep, yeah.
Emirates' diplomatic embargo. So
Qatar are ranked 58th, which is
Yep.
not bad.
it's
I
really
can
high
see-
for them, and
Yeah,
they're going to go higher because they're going to go to the Gold Cup in this summer, and they're going to play against a bunch of Caribbean nations, but those matches are going to mean a lot more points-wise, so they're going to shoot up even higher in the ranks. It's just looking nice for them right now.
Well, they did lose 5-1 to Ghana recently.
I think they could.
I watched that friendly. That was because after the second half, they subbed out 8 of the starting 11 with reserve team players because they wanted to keep them in shape. So
it's fair. It's a big friendly mood.
Yeah, like friendlies don't really mean that much in the long run, unless you're like a really top tier nation and you're losing to a low tier nation, like when Switzerland lost 2-0 to Qatar in 2018. When did this become a football podcast?
It's because you brought up the Jawara, and there's literally nothing. We
were desperately trying to avoid talking about them.
All right. Well, with that, we just hit the hour 50 mark. So I want some closing thoughts, closing statements, anything you guys want to say. Admiral, you got anything to say?
Buy Zanzibar stocks.
Yeah, buy Zanzibar stocks. Okay, Lax, any closing thoughts?
Oh, gosh. I just want everyone to have fun.
LRS, closing thoughts?
No.
I mean, I could have closing thoughts, but like that would imply that I guess like all I can say is just that the Jedi are either going to be very good or very bad, and I don't know which, and it's driving me crazy.
They're going to be bad. Anywho.
The Jedi?
Jedi.
The Jedi are going to be.
Or they sure will be.
They're going to do something. I don't know what it is, and I'm scared to think of what it could be, but they're going to do something.
All right, and my closing thought is play against my Hedonites of Slaanesh army on Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and don't forget to upvote this post on Reddit, to subscribe to Video James on YouTube, to follow TickieJames on Twitch, and also to support the Civilization Battle Royale X. Please make sure to check out the Blue Cassette Patreon page if you want to get some advanced benefits for CBR fans. And just don't forget, any support is appreciated, and we'll see you guys when we release our rankings in 2 weeks. But on the other hand, just watch the episode next week on Tuesday, March 9th.
Yes.
Oh, and also, if you have the opportunity, get vaccinated. I'm getting vaccinated on the 29th. Real excited about it.
I do not have that opportunity.
All right.
I'm way down the list, but actually, given the pace of vaccinating here, I could be vaccinated within a couple months.
I don't expect to be vaccinated for another 6 months being a child.
I'm a tour guide.
Get wrecked, kiddos, because I'm a teacher. Anywho, we are going to end the recording here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.